Welcome back, everyone, to OpenLine. We are talking about the MDA telethon. You remember that? Remember the MDA telethon where you'd save up money and call in, and Jerry Lewis would be on for 24 hours a day? So going back on a walk through memory lane, and we have with us Harold Crump. He's the general manager of this station. He was with WTVF, with News Channel 5 from 1956 to 1981, and was general manager from 1975 to 1981. General manager. Then went on to do all kinds of other stuff in television. And we also have with us Don Wood, Dr. Don Wood. He's president and CEO of MDA, and Steve Farella, chairman of MDA. And Steve, I want to ask you, many of us, again, remember these telethons, remember saving up money, calling in, watching 24 hours. You were obviously a big part of this. Harold was a big part of this. What are some memories you have from that experience?
I will tell you, but first, Harold was a much bigger part of it than I was, but I have some great memories. But first, I want to talk about it, my memories from the other side of the camera, right? So as I guess as viewers, we saw this show go on for 24 hours a day, and we go outside, we come back, and Jerry was on, and we're raising money, and we watched the numbers go up. But on the other side of the camera, on the studio side of the camera, it was really a fabulous coming together of all of the people that were there for MDA. So you had stars of all kinds. We had singers, we had dancers, we had comedians, but we also had our employees, we had our families that were affected by muscular dystrophy. We had medical people in there also enjoying the show and talking to our families. And more importantly, we had our supporters, right? So on one side, it looked like a 24-hour television show, but on the other side, it was a very special kind of conference that happened. While entertainment was going on for 24 hours, in the back rooms, there were sponsors talking to families, and maybe unlike anything else you can do, for example, our firefighters or our folks from Harley or our folks from Citco would have the opportunity to see where their money was going and who they were helping. It was really just a fabulous thing.
That is, I remember watching, yeah, you would watch it 2 o'clock in the afternoon and be like, are they still going to be doing this at, 7 o'clock tonight? And I just couldn't believe they would stay up all night.
Yeah, that's right.
What are some, here at this station, what are some things you remember about the telethon?
That I remember about the telethon? Well, I think it was, we were learning what we were doing as we were doing it. And that's fine if it works out very well. And of course, this did work out extremely well. And we were able then to go to other markets and talk to the general managers of the stations in other markets so that we could spread it on and finally get it all the way across the United States. And then keep up with the money coming in. They'd be telling their local viewers how much money they were raising, but then they were showing it as it was all put together how much was coming in the entire nation. And I think that was another one of those things that caused the viewer to send even more money, and we just kept raising it, and it kept going up, and we were happier and happier.
Were you up? I'm sure you were, the whole 24 hours as well?
Oh, yes.
I mean, everybody's up the whole time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And what was it like? I think we have a picture of you on the phones and stuff. What was it like collecting money and people calling in? Was it pretty steady, or did it get pretty slow sometimes? And what was it like, doing all that?
Sometimes it would get pretty slow, and when it did, you'd try to get it kicked in the rear end to get going again. And for example, Johnny Cash one time, when he was on, he came on late in the evening because he had been doing his own performing, which is what he did to raise his money. And it was, I guess probably about 2, 3 a.m. And he just went up and said, I want to talk to everybody that's out there that is looking at this time. and we need to be making money come in, and I want you to all go to your phones and call your best friend and tell them to turn the damn TV on and see what we're doing, and then send us a contribution. And if they don't do it, he's going to keep calling them again.
That's pretty good entertainment at 3 in the morning, Johnny Cash.
It wasn't bad.
Johnny Cash stopping by, and that's what we offered here in Nashville, right? I mean, we had all these stars, Minnie Pearl, Johnny Cash, and would they come on?
Oh yeah,
Everybody came on.
Sure did.
Dr. Don Wood, what are some memories you have, some recollections here?
Well, I got to join Jerry Lewis on the telethon a number of times. I would go to the telethon because I was talking about the science and the research, and I would interview kids that had muscular dystrophy. They had a segment called Stump the Doctor, and I didn't know what questions they were going to ask me, and the kids would come up with the wheelchairs and others, and then they would ask me things about their disease, and then they would ask me things like, would they ever walk? And I would have great trouble getting through those kinds of questions. I'll tell you, it was tough. Then on the other side, I had an opportunity to go on the telethon in a New York station, with Tony Orlando. And I got a chance to stand with him and be on the stage while he was singing and performing and getting folks to send in donations. The energy, and Steve alluded to this earlier, the energy in the local stations on the telethon, both when it was national and when it came back local. If you remember, there would be the Jerry Lewis part, which was national, and then periodically it would go to the local station. But in each case, whether it was 3 in the morning or 3 in the afternoon, the energy was incredible. Even though people were tired, they didn't feel tired until the end of the show. So it was thrilling. I brought my kids to the show. They got to sit in the audience, and they had a thing like throughout the telethon, the audience is sitting there and they're passing a fishbowl, I think it is, that you put your dollars in, even in the studio, raising money. And as Harold was saying, it involved everybody. And that was great fun.
I bet. And it had to involve everybody. And you had the picture up there, there's Chris Clark, so our anchor was on there.
Yes.
And he was instrumental in all this, and just lots of people phone banking, right?
Yep.
Lots of people phone banking. I want to ask you guys while you're here, kind of, okay, where things, and I maybe alluded to this, but where things stand now. So we all do have these fond memories of the telethon, but you're still raising money, just not in that way. Is that fair, or what would you say?
Oh no, we raise a lot of money. Now, of course, because we don't have the telethon, there are other things that we do, but we still are a national and global presence in the area of neuromuscular disease. Our mission has never stopped. Even though the telethon went down, the mission continued on. As evidence of the strength of that mission and what we have done in the last, I would say, 12 years, we now have 20 FDA-approved treatments for neuromuscular disease, for patients with neuromuscular disease. Why is that important? And I want everybody to listen carefully as why that is important. It's important because all neuromuscular diseases are genetic. In the history of humankind, in the history of medicine, there have been no treatments ever for patients with genetic disease until just now. And the patients with neuromuscular disease lead the way. We have treatments, genetic treatments for kids with a form of the disease called spinal muscular atrophy. For those kids throughout human history, they did not survive beyond the age of about 2 years old. With the genetic treatments now in place, they are walking their dogs at age 5. They are out alive, going to school, have an opportunity to grow up. The average lifespan of patients with neuromuscular disease has increased tremendously. And it goes back to the starting of the telethon, the starting of the folks that raised the money that allowed us to train people, scientists and clinicians, in these disorders. There was no neuromuscular disease specialty before MDA.
That is great. That is so great to hear, because there was so much money raised, and you want to know that, okay, good things are being done and have been done, and major accomplishments have been made.
Historic in medicine, it's medical history. We were the first gene ever underlying a human disease to get discovered. Without knowing what that gene did was for Duchenne muscular dystrophy. It was headline news in 1986 when that occurred, and among the very first treatments for genetic diseases, like I talk about, are again in neuromuscular diseases. The money raised has done extraordinary things for hundreds of thousands of people in improving their lives.
That's great, and that's good to hear. And I want to ask you, Steve, obviously Harold received the MDA Tribute Award. Two other people received that as well. That was here in Nashville. It was last week. Tim Shaw and Dr. Peter D'Onofrio. I want to just ask you a little bit about that. We have some pictures from that night. Talk just a little bit about that night and the other recipients.
I think so. Don, I think you're better at that because you gave those awards. Can you do that?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. Tim Shaw is a former Tennessee Titan football player who in 2014, unfortunately, was given the diagnosis of ALS, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, or as most people know it, Lou Gehrig's disease. It is an inevitably serious disease, but it never stopped him, even though he is unable to speak at this point or walk, and requires 24/7 care. There's nothing wrong with his mind, and with the computer technology we now have, he can communicate. He can communicate with everybody. He has been an enormous advocate for helping folks with ALS, helping us reach out to other people with ALS so we could help them. He's a real tower and strength, and we honored Tim Shaw with a tribute award for all the good work that he does. And there's Harold Crump. I'm behind him, and to my left is Christine Welker, one of the folks who is an executive here with us at the Muscular Dystrophy Association, who has a son with muscular dystrophy. So we were all there with Tim. And then Peter D'Onofrio, Dr. Peter D'Onofrio, worked with MDA to set up the first MDA ALS care center here in Nashville. And it's one of the finest ALS care centers in the country. And he recently retired, and the care center goes on. He was Tim Shaw's doctor here in Nashville. And so we honored Peter D'Onofrio for his pioneering work in bringing a MDA ALS clinic. We started the very first clinics for ALS in America through the enormous donations we had from people watching the telethons. And Tim Shaw was a beneficiary, is a beneficiary, continues to be a beneficiary of the advances in those centers.
That's
and
great.
Dr. Peter D'Onofrio helped them up.
That's excellent. And I want to, Harold, I want to ask you. So you were there that night. You spoke. What message did you want to convey?
What message did I want to convey? I wanted to convey the message that things were terrible at several years back, and they had been improving and getting better because of all the work that had been done by our MDA staff, and the emotions that they had put into it personally, I'm sure had a great deal to do with that. And I'm just so pleased at what the result has been, and like I say,
there's been this great progress.
Yeah, it's just been tremendous.
Well, that's great. And Steve, we're about to go to commercial, but I want to give you final word here before we go to commercial. That sounds like the essence of the message from that night, that things have improved.
I can take it to a much different level, and Harold's going to know this clearly, and I know that Dr. Wood does. In the beginning, we talked about Jerry's kids, Jerry Lewis's kids, right? Help raise money for Jerry's kids. They're no longer kids. Because of what MDA has done over the past 60, 70 years, these kids have now grown up. Just on our board, we have fellows with our disease, with muscular dystrophy. One is a lawyer, the other one is a CEO, and the third one is an entrepreneur with his own business. So, and these are all guys in their 50s who are now grown up because of the care that we have given, we've been able to give all people with muscular dystrophy.
That's great. Yeah, you're right. That's what I remember, Jerry's kids. That's what it was always about. And that's a good point. Now they've grown up.
They've grown up. They have grown up.
Wow. All right, we are going to take a break. Then we're going to come back. We're going to kind of take a walk down memory lane with Harold Crump, looking back at some great pictures from when he worked at this station, which was for a very long time. And so we'll take a break. Be back right after this.